I remember the first time I heard about it. A summer night, crickets outside, the kind of quiet that usually feels safe. But then the news anchor's voice cut through the air, talking about a house, a home, where everything just vanished. 3 women, a mother, her daughter, and a friend, gone. No struggle, no forced entry, just an empty space where life had been moments before. It still haunts me, the sheer, terrifying simplicity of it. How can someone just disappear, leaving behind only questions and an echo of a scream no one ever heard? I've spent years digging into the shadows of the world, but this case, this chilling void in Springfield, Missouri, it's different. It feels like it could happen to anyone, anywhere, at any time. The quiet of that summer night, the one I mentioned, it feels like a trick now, a lull before the storm. Because what happened in Springfield, Missouri on the night of June 6, 1992 wasn't a sudden, violent outburst. It was a silent, insidious creep. It was the kind of horror that doesn't scream. It whispers, then leaves only an empty echo. I remember poring over the initial reports, the grainy photographs of Sherrill Levitt, Suzie Streeter, and Stacy McCall. Sherrill, the mother, 47 years old, a kind face, a loving mother and grandmother. Suzie, her daughter, 19, just graduated from high school, full of life, full of plans. And Stacy, Suzie's best friend, also 19, celebrating their graduation together. They were just normal. That's what makes it so much worse. They weren't involved in anything dangerous, nothing illicit. They were just living their lives. That Saturday night, June 6th, was supposed to be a celebration. Suzie and Stacy had spent the evening at a graduation party at a friend's house, then a few other stops. Standard teenage stuff. They arrived back at Sherrill's modest home on East Delmar Street sometime after 2 a.m., maybe closer to 2:30 a.m. They were planning to get up early the next day to go to a water park. A perfectly ordinary, innocent plan. I imagined them, tired but still buzzing from the party, maybe whispering secrets as they got ready for bed. The house, I picture it, warm and lived in, the kind of place where you feel safe. Little did they know, the safety was already an illusion. The first hint that something was terribly wrong came the next morning, Sunday, June 7th. Suzie's boyfriend, Bart Streeter, no relation to Suzie, just a coincidence, arrived at the house around 7:30 a.m. He was going to help Sherrill paint a birdhouse. He found the front door unlocked. Not ajar, not forced, just unlocked. A small detail, easily dismissed, but it's one of those things that, in retrospect, sends a shiver down your spine. He walked in, called out, but got no answer. He left, thinking they were already at the water park, or maybe just sleeping in. Later that morning, around 9 a.m., Stacy's mother, Janice McCall, arrived. Stacy was supposed to meet her parents for a family trip to Branson. Janice, too, found the front door unlocked. This time, the silence inside was heavier. She called out, "Stacy? Suzie? Sherrill?" Nothing. She stepped inside. The house was quiet, almost too quiet, the kind of quiet that makes the hair on your arms stand up. This is where the details become truly unnerving. I've replayed Janice's account in my mind countless times. The front door, still unlocked. The porch light shattered. Not just broken, but a small piece of glass missing, as if something had struck it with force. Inside, the living room lights were on. The television was on, tuned to a local station, playing cartoons. Cartoons! In an empty house. That image, it's always stuck with me. A mundane, comforting sound, now twisted into something deeply sinister. Janice went into the bedrooms. Sherrill's bed had been slept in. Suzie and Stacy's beds in the guest room had also been slept in, the covers turned back. It looked like they had gone to bed, settled in for the night. But where were they? Their purses were on the floor by the beds. Their car keys were inside their purses. Their cars, a 1989 Honda CRX and a 1987 Toyota Camry, were still parked outside. Everything they needed to leave was right there, untouched. It was as if they had simply evaporated from their beds. A small half-eaten container of melted ice cream sat on the coffee table. A single pack of cigarettes lay next to it. It painted a picture of someone enjoying a late-night snack, perhaps watching TV. But then what? What happened in the moments after? The ice cream was melted, meaning it had been out for a while. The cigarettes were untouched. Did someone walk away from a snack, never to return? And then there was Cinnamon, Susie's Yorkshire Terrier. He was still in the house, wagging his tail, seemingly undisturbed. Dogs usually bark at strangers, especially in the middle of the night. But Cinnamon hadn't made a sound. This detail always bothered me. Was the intruder known to the dog? Or was the dog simply quieted? The thought sends a chill down my spine every time I consider it. Janice, growing increasingly frantic, called friends, called relatives. No one had seen them. The police were called, and that's when the true horror of the situation began to sink in. They searched the house, the yard, the neighborhood. Nothing. No signs of struggle, no forced entry, no note, no blood, no footprints, just the unlocked door, the shattered porch light, the TV playing cartoons, and 3 women gone. I remember thinking, as I read those early reports, about the sheer audacity of it. To enter a home, to take 3 people, and leave no trace. It felt like a ghost story, not a police investigation. It defied logic. It defied common sense. It was a violation not just of a home, but of the very fabric of what we understand about crime. Usually there's a struggle, a broken window, a missing item of value. Here, there was nothing, just an empty space where life had been. The police, I imagine, must have been baffled. They treated it initially as a missing persons case, but with each passing hour, the grim reality must have become clearer. This wasn't someone running away. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was something far more sinister, far more calculated. It was a void, a sudden, inexplicable vacuum that had swallowed 3 lives whole. And it left behind not fear, but a creeping, suffocating dread. The kind that makes you double-check your locks, even on a summer night. The kind that makes you question the safety of your own home, your own bed. It makes you wonder, if it can happen to them, so silently, so completely, what truly protects any of us? It's a question that still echoes in my mind, even after all these years. The police, they must have felt it too. That sickening lurch in the gut when a case just doesn't fit. No forced entry, no struggle, no ransom note, no bodies. Just a gaping void. I can only imagine the sheer bewilderment, the slow, creeping dread that would settle over those investigators. They threw everything at it, of course. Door-to-door searches, canine units, helicopters scouring the dense Missouri landscape. But what were they looking for? A needle in a haystack when they weren't even sure if the haystack existed. Every lead seemed to evaporate, every potential clue dissolving into thin air. It was a phantom crime, leaving behind only the chilling absence of 3 lives. I remember reading about the initial days, the desperation of the families. Sherrill's mother, Janice, who found the house that morning, she became the face of their anguish. Her voice, even in newspaper quotes, carried an unbearable weight. She called the police again and again, pushing for answers that simply weren't there. And then, just days after the disappearance, a new layer of horror was added. A phone call. It was around 11 p.m. on June 7th, the day after they vanished. Janice McCall, Sherrill's mother, received a call at her home. The caller, a man, sounded agitated, almost frantic. He claimed to be a friend of the 3 women, saying that they had been kidnapped and that he would call back later. But he never did. He never called back. This detail, it's always gnawed at me. Who was this man? Was he genuinely trying to help, or was he part of the nightmare? Was it a cruel hoax, a sick joke preying on a grieving family? Or was it a genuine lead, a fleeting glimpse into the abyss quickly snatched away? The police traced the call, but it was made from a payphone. Untraceable. Another dead end in a rapidly accumulating pile of them. It felt like the universe itself was conspiring to keep the truth hidden, to shroud this case in an impenetrable fog. And then there was the brown van. A witness reported seeing a brown Dodge van, older model, parked near Sherrill's house sometime between 2:30 a.m. and 3 a.m. on June 7th. A man was seen driving it. This was around the time Suzie and Stacy would have arrived back home. Was it connected? Was this the vehicle that brought the unseen horror to East Delmar Street? The police put out an alert, searched for that van. It became a ghostly image in the collective consciousness of Springfield, a symbol of the unknown terror. Another witness, a woman, came forward, claiming she saw two women and a third person, who she couldn't identify, being driven in a brown van at an unusual hour that morning. She said the women seemed disheveled, their hair messy. She thought they looked like they had been out late partying, but her description was vague, and the details never quite solidified into anything concrete. Was it them? Was it just a coincidence? Or was it a misremembered detail, a desperate attempt to help that only added more confusion? My mind races with these possibilities, trying to weave a coherent narrative from threads that refuse to connect. The frustrating thing, the truly maddening thing, is the sheer lack of physical evidence. No fingerprints that weren't accounted for, no DNA, no signs of a struggle inside the house, no blood, no broken furniture. It was pristine, almost sterile, save for the small, unsettling details. The shattered porch light, the melted ice cream, the TV playing cartoons. It was as if the perpetrators had meticulously scrubbed the scene clean, not just of physical traces, but of any logical explanation. This wasn't a crime of passion. It felt like a calculated, cold-blooded vanishing act. The theories? Oh, the theories. They began to swirl almost immediately. Was it a drug deal gone wrong? Despite the family's insistence that the women weren't involved in anything like that. Was it a serial killer passing through town, leaving a signature of silence? Was it someone known to them? Someone who could walk in unchallenged? Someone the dog wouldn't bark at? Local criminals were questioned, background checks were run, but every avenue led to a dead end. Each theory, each potential suspect seemed to crumble under scrutiny, leaving us back at square one. 3 women, gone, as if swallowed by the earth. I remember one particular detail that always stood out, a small, almost insignificant occurrence that added another layer of bizarre mystery. A few days after the disappearance, a man called a local Yellow Pages company. He asked if there was a listing for a Sherrill Levitt. The operator, recognizing the name from the news, asked why he was calling. The man quickly hung up. Who was that? Why call a public directory for someone's face was plastered on every news channel? Was he checking to see if she still existed, if her number was still active? Or was it a twisted form of reconnaissance, an attempt to gauge the public's awareness? It's a small detail, but it speaks volumes about the unsettling nature of this case, the way it defied all normal patterns. The Springfield Three case became a local legend, a chilling bedtime story whispered in hushed tones. It infiltrated the collective psyche of the town, eroding the sense of security, planting seeds of doubt and fear. Every unlocked door, every unexpected sound in the night became a reminder of Sherrill, Suzie, and Stacy. Their faces, aging in composite sketches over the years, became a constant haunting presence. For me, it became more than just a news story. It became an obsession. I found myself poring over every article, every documentary, every grainy photo. I tried to put myself in their shoes, in Janice McCall's shoes, in the shoes of the investigators. I tried to understand the psychology of a crime that leaves no trace, the mind of a perpetrator who can orchestrate such a perfect vanishing act. And the more I delved, the deeper the dread settled. It's the silence that terrifies me most. Not the silence of the house that morning, but the silence that followed. The years of silence, the decades of silence. No calls, no ransom demands, no bodies, no confessions, no definitive answers. Just the vast, echoing silence where 3 lives used to be. It's a silence that screams louder than any scream, a silence that speaks of an unthinkable horror. This case, it didn't just take 3 women. It took a piece of Springfield's innocence. It took away the simple comfort of knowing that your home is your sanctuary. It showed us that sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones you never see, the ones who leave no footprint, no trace, only a chilling void. And that void, it stretches out across the years, a constant nagging reminder that some questions may never be answered, and some nightmares may never end. The quiet of that summer night, the one I mentioned at the beginning, it's not a trick, it's a promise. A promise that the most terrifying things happen when no one is watching, when the world is asleep, and the only sound is the whisper of the wind through an open, unlocked door. It still chills me to my core. That whisper, that silent promise of terror, it didn't fade with the summer. It grew, it deepened, echoing through the years. Decades now. Nearly 30 years since Sherrill, Suzie, and Stacy vanished. And still, nothing. No closure, no answers. Just that gaping, insatiable void. The case remains open, a perpetual wound in the heart of Springfield. A crime that seemingly defied detection, defied logic, defied even the most relentless human efforts. I followed this case through countless updates, watched investigators change hands, seen the technology evolve, but the core mystery remains immutable. Every new lead, every hopeful whisper eventually dissolves into the same maddening silence. My mind always circles back to those initial baffling details. The unlocked door, the undisturbed dog, the lack of struggle. It screams of familiarity, doesn't it? It suggests someone who either knew them or someone so utterly devoid of humanity that they could orchestrate such a seamless, terrifying abduction without a single misplaced item, a single cry for help. The police, they had their theories, of course. Early on, they looked at disgruntled ex-boyfriends, local drifters, even a man with a history of violence against women. He was a person of interest, in jail for an unrelated crime, but the timeline was murky and he denied everything. The whispers lingered, but no solid evidence ever emerged. Was he the monster? Could one man be so meticulously cruel, so terrifyingly efficient? The thought sends a shiver down my spine. The idea of a predator so skilled at erasing every trace, at making people simply cease to exist. It's a different kind of monster, isn't it? Not the one you hear crashing through your window, but the one who slips in like a shadow, takes what they want, and leaves nothing but an empty space. That's the horror of the Springfield Three. It's the meticulousness, the sheer chilling professionalism of the vanishing act. It suggests a mind utterly detached, utterly cold, capable of orchestrating an abduction without a single misplaced item, a single cry for help. A mind that could silence 3 lives so completely, so definitively, that even after decades, the Earth hasn't given up its secrets. I remember when the name Robert Craig Cox first surfaced. This was years later, in the late 90s. He was a convicted kidnapper and robber, already on death row in Texas for a separate murder. He had lived in Springfield at the time of the disappearances, and he claimed he knew what happened. He made a chilling statement to a newspaper reporter, saying the women were buried in Springfield and that he wouldn't tell where until the statute of limitations is up. Then later, he recanted. Or rather, he said he was just messing with the reporter. But that initial claim, that glib, terrifying hint, it tore through the families like a fresh wound. Imagine the torment. To finally hear a whisper of an answer, only for it to be snatched away, dismissed as a cruel joke by a condemned man. My stomach clenches just thinking about it. Was it a desperate bid for attention, or was it the truth, twisted and distorted by a psychopath, a final act of cruelty to inflict on those left behind? The police interviewed Cox, of course. He denied any involvement, claiming he was in Florida at the time, but his story had holes, inconsistencies. And then there was the polygraph. He failed it.
Badly, but polygraphs aren't admissible in court, and without physical evidence, without a body, without a location, his words, however damning, remained just that, words. Another phantom lead, another agonizing flicker of hope extinguished. It's like watching someone drown slowly, seeing them reach for the surface, only for the water to close over them again and again. And then there's the theory that gnaws at me more than any other, the one that feels almost too awful to speak aloud. It emerged from a source close to the investigation, a theory whispered behind closed doors, a possibility so dark it stains everything it touches. The idea that the women, or at least some of their remains, might be buried under a concrete slab. Think about that for a moment. Not in a shallow grave in the woods, not hidden away in some remote field, but sealed beneath a permanent structure, a building, a driveway, a foundation, something purposefully designed to entomb, to hide forever. The thought sends a cold, hard knot of fear coiling in my gut. It speaks of a level of premeditation, a cold-blooded calculation that is almost beyond human comprehension. It implies not just murder, but an attempt to erase their very existence from the physical world. The specific rumor, the one that circulated for years, involved a new construction project that was started shortly after the disappearances. A hotel parking garage. It was a massive undertaking, pouring thousands of cubic yards of concrete. The timing, the scale, the sheer finality of it. It's the kind of detail that makes your blood run cold. To think that they could be right there, beneath our feet, forever silenced, forever hidden by layers of concrete and steel. I've stood in Springfield, near the site where that hotel was built. I've looked at the ground, and I swear I could feel the weight of that possibility pressing down on me. The sheer audacity of it, the complete, utter disregard for human life. It's a violation not just of the victims, but of the very earth itself. It's a permanent scar, a tombstone without a name, a monument to an unspeakable evil. The police, they investigated this theory too. They brought in ground-penetrating radar, cadaver dogs, even considered demolishing parts of the structure. But the logistics, the cost, the lack of precise information, it all proved insurmountable. How do you find 3 bodies in a massive concrete structure without tearing the entire thing down? It was another dead end, another agonizing block in the path to answers. It's a testament to the chilling ingenuity of the perpetrator, if this theory holds any truth. To think that they could have used the very expansion of the city to hide their monstrous crime. The years passed, turning into decades. The initial investigators retired, new ones took their place, each inheriting the heavy burden of this unsolved case. The technology advanced, DNA analysis became more sophisticated, but without a single piece of physical evidence, without a body, without a crime scene, it was all theoretical. The case became a grim reminder of the limits of forensic science, a stark illustration of what happens when a monster leaves no trace. I've seen the families age, their faces etched with a grief that never truly heals. Janice McCall, Stacy's mother, she never stopped fighting. Her determination, her refusal to let the world forget, it's both inspiring and heartbreaking. To live for decades with that kind of uncertainty, that gaping void, it's a torture I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. Every birthday, every holiday, every passing year is a fresh reminder of what was lost and what remains unknown. The Springfield Three case isn't just about 3 missing women anymore.
It's about the lingering fear, the erosion of trust, the gnawing question of what lies beneath the veneer of safety. It's about the monster that walks among us, unseen, unheard, leaving behind only the ghost of a memory and the chilling echo of a life that simply vanished. And for me, it's a constant, visceral reminder that some shadows are too deep to ever fully illuminate, some horrors too profound to ever truly comprehend. It's a silence that screams. A silence that will continue to scream until the earth finally gives up its secrets. Words, just words. And in a case like this, words are a torment. They offer a cruel flicker of hope, a momentary illusion of an answer, only to extinguish it, leaving the darkness even more profound. Cox's confession, however fleeting, however twisted, was a hammer blow to the families, a promise of revelation that vanished like smoke. I can only imagine the detectives, the grim, weary faces, poring over every detail, every possible link, knowing they had a potential monster on their hands, a man who seemed to relish playing cat and mouse with their anguish, and yet being utterly powerless to act. It's the ultimate injustice, isn't it? To know or to strongly suspect, and yet to be unable to prove. This case, it's a masterclass in frustration. Every twist, every turn, every new piece of information seems to lead you down a rabbit hole, only to find it bricked up at the end. The years rolled on. 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Each anniversary, a fresh wave of media attention, renewed pleas from the families, but the silence remained unbroken. The faces of Sherrill, Suzie, and Stacy, once young and vibrant in those grainy photos, became fixed in time, forever 47 and 19. But the people who loved them, they aged. Their hope, I imagine, became a fragile, brittle thing, constantly buffeted by the relentless wind of unanswered questions. I've often wondered about the investigators who worked this case from the beginning.
The ones who walked into that quiet house on East Delmar Street, saw the shattered porch light, the cartoons playing, the melted ice cream. What did that do to them? What kind of scar does a case like this leave on your soul? To chase shadows for decades, to interview hundreds, maybe thousands of people, to sift through mountains of evidence that ultimately tells you nothing concrete. It must be a living hell, a professional torment that bleeds into your personal life. I feel a tightness in my chest just thinking about it, the sheer weight of that unsolved mystery. The lack of bodies, that's the most agonizing part, the most terrifying. If there were bodies, there would be a crime scene, forensics, a cause of death, perhaps even a location. There would be a grave, a place to mourn, a semblance of closure. But there's nothing, just an empty space where 3 women used to be. It allows the mind to conjure the most unspeakable horrors, to imagine endless scenarios, each more chilling than the last. Are they still alive somewhere? Unlikely, after so long. But the uncertainty, that gnawing what if, it's a cruel punishment. It means the families can never truly grieve, never truly say goodbye. They're trapped in a perpetual state of agonizing limbo. Over the years, the theories continued to multiply, each one a desperate attempt to impose some kind of order on the chaos. Was it a local criminal, someone known to Sherrill, perhaps someone with a grudge? The police reportedly looked into a man who had done some work on Sherrill's house, a violent individual. But again, no definitive link, no evidence. Was it a sex trafficking ring, snatching young women? The idea is repulsive, but in the absence of any other explanation, even the most grotesque possibilities gain traction. Or was it, as some whispered, a meticulously planned professional hit, targeting someone in the house for reasons unknown? But who and why such an elaborate, silent disappearance? The reward money grew over time, a desperate plea to anyone, anywhere, to break the silence. Hundreds of tips came in, each one meticulously investigated, each one leading to the same dead end. It's like throwing a stone into a bottomless well. You hear no splash, you see no ripple, just the stone vanishing into the darkness. And the darkness in this case, it feels infinite. The sheer audacity of it still stuns me. To take 3 people from their beds, in their own home, and leave absolutely no trace. It speaks of a level of control, a cold precision that is truly terrifying. It makes you question everything you think you know about crime, about human nature. It's not a crime of passion, it's not a robbery gone wrong. It feels like an act of erasure, a deliberate attempt to make 3 lives simply cease to exist, not just physically, but as a solvable mystery.
I remember reading about the efforts to keep the case alive, the billboards, the online forums, the documentaries, each one a flickering candle against an overwhelming darkness. The faces of Sherrill, Suzie, and Stacy became etched into the national consciousness, a haunting reminder of the fragility of life, the vulnerability of home. Their smiles, frozen in time, became a silent accusation, a question mark hanging over the entire community. And the silence itself, it becomes a character in this story. It's not just the absence of sound, it's an active, oppressive force. It's the silence of complicity, perhaps, the silence of fear, the silence of a secret held so tightly that it threatens to consume everyone involved. That's what truly gets under my skin. The idea that someone or someones out there knows. They hold the key to this decades-long torment, and they choose to remain silent. What kind of person can carry such a burden? What monstrous indifference allows them to live with the knowledge of what happened to these 3 women? The case of the Springfield Three isn't just a cold case. It's a gaping wound in the fabric of reality. It challenges our understanding of safety, of justice, of what it means to simply vanish. It's a constant, chilling reminder that sometimes the most profound horrors are the ones that leave no footprint, no scream, just an empty echo that reverberates through the years, growing fainter perhaps, but never truly fading. It's a whisper that refuses to die, a question mark that haunts the edges of our sleep. And the longer it goes on, the more insidious the horror becomes, because it suggests that such a perfect disappearance is not only possible, but achievable. And that, more than anything, is what truly chills me to my core. I was staring at the screen again, a blurry photo of Sherrill's house taken just after the police arrived. The porch light was still shattered, a jagged, dark hole in the frame. My own porch light flickered outside my window, a moth batting against the glass. The house was too quiet. Always too quiet when I'm deep in this case. The crickets outside, the same sound I described at the beginning, now sounded like a countdown. I got up, walked to the kitchen for water. The floorboards creaked. Every shadow seemed to stretch, to hold a hidden shape. I found myself checking the locks, not just once, but twice, 3 times. My hand lingered on the cold metal of the deadbolt, the simple mechanism that was supposed to keep the horror out. But it hadn't for them, had it? An unlocked door. That's all it took. An invitation to the void. My mind replayed it. Suzie and Stacy buzzing from the party, whispering secrets. Sherrill maybe already asleep. The house warm, safe. Then the unseen arrival. The brown van, a phantom on East Delmar. The figure, a shadow detached from the night, moving with an eerie, practiced grace.
No forced entry, no struggle. How do you take 3 people, 2 of them young and strong, without a sound? It was then, standing in my own quiet kitchen, that the whisper became a scream in my head. The melted ice cream, the TV playing cartoons, Cinnamon, the silent dog. It wasn't just a lack of struggle, it was acceptance, or worse, a complete, terrifying lack of awareness. They didn't know. They didn't see it coming. I felt a cold breath on my neck, though the window was closed.
A shiver ran down my spine, so profound it felt like an electric shock. I spun around, my heart hammering against my ribs, convinced I wasn't alone. The kitchen was empty, save for my own trembling reflection in the dark window pane. But the feeling persisted, an intrusive, chilling presence. It wasn't a ghost. It was the ghost of how. The chilling precision, the utter, dehumanizing efficiency. I imagined the figure, not a hulking monster, but someone quiet, unassuming, someone who could blend into the background, someone who knew the rhythms of the house, the habits of its occupants, someone who knew when the porch light would be out, when the TV would be left on, when the ice cream would be melting. And Cinnamon, the dog, how was he silent? My mind conjured an image so vivid it made me gag. Not a stranger the dog barked at, but someone familiar, or someone who knew how to silence a dog, not with violence, but with a quiet, practiced hand, a treat, a soft word, a momentary distraction, just long enough for the true horror to unfold. I saw it playing out in the shadows of my kitchen, illuminated by the faint glow of the streetlights outside. The women, perhaps waking to a soft sound, a quiet voice. No alarm, no fear, not yet. Maybe a question, who's there? And then, the silence. The sudden, absolute silence. Not a struggle, not a scream, but a swift, terrifying cessation of life, of sound, of presence, like a switch being flipped. The empty beds, the purses with the car keys, the cars still outside. It wasn't about taking their possessions, it was about taking them, erasing them, making them simply cease to be. And the meticulousness of it all, the shattered porch light, not an accident, but a deliberate act to plunge the entrance into darkness, to hide the arrival, to eliminate witnesses. But why leave it shattered? A clue? Unless it was a message, a declaration of dominance. I was here, I took them, and you will never know how. My breath hitched, my hands were clammy. This wasn't a story anymore. It was a visceral, terrifying possibility that clawed at my own sense of safety. The whisper I'd spoken of, it was in my ears now, a cold, dry rustle. It told me that the most terrifying monsters don't rage, they don't make noise, they don't leave a mess. They simply exist, and they take. I looked at my own front door, then at the window. The world outside, usually a source of comfort, now felt like a vast, indifferent ocean, capable of swallowing anything without a ripple. The quiet of my house, the quiet of that Springfield home, it wasn't peaceful. It was the absence of sound, the absence of life, an echo chamber for a scream that was never heard. And in that profound, suffocating silence, I understood the true, unbearable horror of the Springfield Three. It wasn't just a disappearance, it was an obliteration, a perfect, seamless, terrifying removal. And the perpetrator, whoever they weren't just a criminal. They were an architect of absence, a master of the void. And they were still out there, moving like a shadow, whispering in the silence, always, always waiting. The quiet of the summer night, it wasn't a trick, it was a promise. A promise that the most terrifying things happen when no one is watching, when the world is asleep and the only sound is the whisper of the wind through an open, unlocked door. And it's a promise that is still being kept. The silence of the void, it's not empty, it's full of echoes, full of whispers. And it's pressing in on me right now in this quiet room. The terror isn't just that they vanished. It's that we still don't know how. And that means it could happen again. To anyone. To me. The thought was a cold, sharp knife twisting in my gut. The quiet was no longer safe. It was simply waiting. The quiet was no longer safe. It was simply waiting. And that waiting, that perpetual unresolved dread, that's the true legacy of the Springfield Three. It's not just a case of three missing women. It's a living, breathing testament to the ultimate horror, the obliteration of presence. To vanish without a trace, without a sound, without even a ripple in the fabric of the night. It challenges everything we believe about security, about the sanctity of home, about the very idea of justice. I close my eyes, and I can still see Sherrill, Suzie, and Stacy's faces. Forever young, forever smiling, forever asking the same question: what happened to us? And the silence that answers them, that's the silence that haunts my waking hours, that seeps into my dreams. It's a silence filled with unspeakable possibilities, with the cold certainty that someone, somewhere, holds the truth and chooses to keep it locked away. This story, these dreadful echoes, they serve as a chilling reminder. Not every monster announces itself with a roar. Some slip in like shadows, leaving behind only the ghost of a memory and a void that can never be filled. And that void, it continues to expand, swallowing hope, devouring answers, leaving us all just a little more afraid of the dark. It makes you wonder, doesn't it?
About the stories we don't hear, the disappearances that never make the headlines, the quiet horrors that unfold in the stillness of the night. Have you ever felt that unsettling quiet? That sense that something profound, something terrifying, has simply ceased to be? Or perhaps you've stumbled upon a detail, a whisper, a fleeting image that never quite made sense, but lingered like a phantom limb of a forgotten terror. Because the silence of the Springfield Three, it's not an ending. It's a perpetual beginning of unease. It's a promise that the most terrifying things happen when no one is watching, when the world is asleep, and the only sound is the whisper of the wind through an open, unlocked door. And it's a promise that is still being kept, echoing in the quiet corners of our world, waiting for its next victim, or perhaps for its first true answer. Until then, we can only listen to the dreadful echoes.